Hello, welcome to my drumming. This is part 19. This is a song by a band called Velvet Revolver and the song is called Slither. There's loads and loads of drum parts in it, so we're going to crack straight in, get on with some of the patterns because the video is going to be long enough as it is. So pattern 1 is a different way to look at the patterns than we have done before. Previously we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, things like that. What we're going to do now is, I think actually if you have a look at all of the music for this first, because there's quite a few pictures involved in the music, so have a look at the music now. And you can see from pattern 1 in the music that there's a lot of floor tom. So throughout it there's 2 lots of 8 as we've always done. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the floor tom. The bass drum comes in on the 1, the 3 and the 8 of the first pattern and the 2 and the 3 of the second pattern of 8. The snare drum comes in on the 5 of the first lot of 8 and then the 5, 6, 7, 8 of the second lot of 8. Now right at the beginning of the song there is just a quick like that at the beginning. Okay, so that's just the bit right at the beginning of the song. The pattern 1 that we've just run through sounds like this. Now pattern 2 is exactly the same as pattern 1, but it doesn't have the symbol in it, so very straightforward. Pattern 3 is again another 4 beat. The bass drum is exactly the same as in pattern 1 and pattern 2 in the first 4 beats, so the bass drum comes on the 1 and the 3, and then in the second count of 4, so 5, 6, 7 and 8, you've got the snare drum on 5 and 8 along with a hi-hat beat as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play pattern 2 through and then that'll go straight into pattern 3. So here's both of them together. And then there's 3 hi-hat counts to count the main rhythm in the song in. Okay, hope that makes sense. Have another look at the music and hopefully that should come through okay. Now, patterns 4, 5 and 6 are all very similar. There's either cymbal crashes or double snare drums. So I'm just going to play pattern 4 through for you just so you can see how it goes. Now the way that that's counted out is instead of 1, 2, 3, 4 you've got a crash cymbal on the 1, then a hi-hat on the 3 and then hi-hats on the 5 and 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah? And as ever, the snare drum comes on the 3 and the 7. So simplified, the beginning of pattern 4 is this. Okay? Now the bass drum, this is where it gets quite complicated because the bass drum is playing on the off beats where the hi-hat isn't. So in the first lot of 8 the bass drum comes in on 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, and then in the second lot of 8 it comes in 2, 5 and 6. And then the only difference between pattern 4 and 5 is the cymbal crash at the beginning. The only difference between pattern 5 and 6 is the double snare drum beat and the rests at the end. So I'm going to play patterns 4, 5 and 6 through, up one after the other, so you can hear how they all go. Now patterns 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11 are all variations on the same thing. They are still very similar to patterns 4, 5 and 6, but there's hi-hat openings now. So in pattern 7 the hi-hat comes in right in the final snare drum beat. In pattern 8 the hi-hat comes in on the final 2 snare drum beats. And pattern 9 is identical to pattern 7 but just without a cymbal crash at the beginning. So I'll play patterns 7, 8 and 9 through one after the other so you can hear them now. So that's pattern 7, 8 and 9. Now pattern 10 is the same as the previous patterns, but there's a hi-hat opening right at the end. So I'll play it through so you can hear how it goes. Okay. Now pattern 11 is the last pattern before the chorus comes in. So the first 3 bars are similar to the previous patterns that we've gone through, but there's a fill at the end that just takes us into the chorus. So the way that the fill goes is it's snare drum, bass and high tom at the same time, then high and mid tom, then bass drum, floor tom and mid tom at the same time. So it goes like this. Okay? And that's at the end of 3/4 of the pattern. So it's the whole thing sounds like this. Okay. Now pattern 12 is slightly more complicated. It's not 2 lots of 8 count like we've previously been looking at. It's an 8 count, but the bass drum comes in complicated places. So the bass drum comes in 1, 2, 4.5, 5.5 and then 6. Okay, so I'll play through pattern 12 slowly so you can hear it a couple of times. Pattern 13 is a fairly straightforward pattern on the ride cymbal and cymbal. The cymbal is hit on beat 1, snare drum on beat 3, bass drum on beats 1 and 2, and then there's a quaver played on the snare and floor tom, and then a mix between the snare drum and the bass drum. So slowly the whole thing does this. Okay, so that fill is pattern 14 is the same beat that we've played before, but the fill at the end of pattern 14 is literally 1, 1 and 2. Okay, so that's it. Pattern 15 is the same that we've played before, just with the hi-hat beats coming in again. The only difference with pattern 15 is the hi-hats are in different places, so there's no need to cover that again. Now pattern 16, it's again same beat all the way through, but the fill at the end is the complicated part. Now the way that the fill goes is I'll play it slowly because it's easier to show you to play. Okay, so the fill is, so da 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 da. Okay? And I find at the end of the fill there's a cymbal crash, so I find it easier to play with a double beat with the left hand. So, okay, hope that makes sense. Pattern 17 is the pattern that we've played before, but it's the fill at the end which is the one to pay attention to, and it's just a simple 4 beat with a snare drum, bass drum, mid tom and then low tom. So just a... Now I've probably played them around the kit doing 2 drums at the same time, so a bomb 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 bomb, but hopefully you get the gist. Pattern 18 is the same again, but the fill at the end is 3 on the snare drum, 2 on the tom. So just a... So pattern 18 with the beat. Now pattern 19 is a fill which is fairly straightforward. There's lots of rests in it, so I'll just play it through slowly, which is probably the best way to show you. So beat 1 is cymbal and bass, beat 3 is hi-hat and snare, repeat those 2 again, then there's a simple pattern with the bass drum, the snare, and that's it. So I'll show you how it goes. Okay, so one more time. Just count that through plenty of times, that's the best way to do that. So pattern 20 is another fill in the song that happens a couple of times. I think it's right at the end of the song and about halfway through. And it's one of those ones that you can count it through slowly, which will help you learn it. But I think the best way to learn it is probably just to listen to what I play and then try and mirror it. So here goes pattern 20. Have a listen, see what you think. Pattern 21 is identical to the pattern that we played earlier, pattern 17, but instead of just the single drums at the same time, it's just twin drums at the same time. So that's just a round the kit, fairly straightforward. And pattern 22 is the final pattern in the series, and the best way that I count this is, again, just to listen to it through. There's 4 quavers at the beginning, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then the drum beats come in on off beats on the snare. So I'll play it slowly for you so you can see how it sounds. There's actually a cymbal at the beginning of it, which I haven't put in the music, I've just noticed that now, but I'll play it through slowly so you can see how it goes. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. There's that double left hand to finish again, so you can pick up something with the right. Da 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 da. Okay, so that's all of the beats through. I hope they make sense. We've gone through them quite quickly and there's some quite complicated ones. So have a listen to the song now and hopefully you can see where I play all of them, pick them up in the right place, and as ever, any questions please shout. This is Slither by Velvet Revolver. I hope you enjoy. yeah, that was pretty much there, I think. That was the second take that I did for that, because the first one, the hi-hat didn't come out a lot, and I think maybe the hi-hat didn't sound in a couple at the beginning. It was lost maybe a little bit and halfway through the song, but generally, that's the song. Hope you played along with it, hope you enjoyed listening to it, hope you learned something from it. As ever, any questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, bye-bye.